So today I will discuss about data types in Java. Primarily there are two types of data types available in Java. One is the primitive data types and the other is the reference or the object data types. Now what are primitive data types? Anybody who has studied any language knows that there are data types like integer, and in integer they have various subdivisions like short, long. Then there are decimal like double and float. So these are all primitive data types, and the main property of the primitive data types is that they occupy space in the stack. A stack is a data structure which is also known as last in first out or the LIFO data structure. So they are allocated space in the memory stack, whereas the reference data types or the object data types are stored on the heap. Heap is another data structure. So there are 8 primitive data types supported by Java. Primitive data types are predefined by the language and named by a keyword. Like there are certain like in C we have int, and some other language we have integer, but the meaning is the same. The primitive data types are predefined by the language and named by a keyword. And let us now look into the detail about how primitive data types, what are exactly primitive data types. In Java we have the smallest primitive data type to be byte. A byte is the smallest primitive data type in Java. A byte data type is a 8-bit or a single byte data type. It is also known as 8-bit signed 2's complement integer. Now the minimum value that can be stored in a byte data type is -128. The maximum value that can be stored is 127, and default value is 0. So if you don't initialize a particular byte data type variable, you just declare it, then in that case it will hold the value of 0. So byte data type is used to save space in large arrays, mainly in place of integers, because if we want to go through the series or the numbers which we are interested in is not greater than 127, either than less than 128, -128, then this data type serves well. And it is quite small as compared to integer. It is 4 times smaller than integer, so it holds very less memory space. So we can declare a byte data type like any other data type. Like first we write the data type, then we write the variable, then with the equal to sign there is the value associated with it, whatever value we want to initialize the data, the variable with. And as you can see, like byte A is equal to 100 or byte B is equal to -50, it can hold both positive and negative values. So another primitive data type is short. It is a 16-bit 2's complement integer, and the minimum value associated with a short is -32768, or we can also say that -2 to the power of 15, because it holds 15 values for 15 bits for storing ones and zeros, and 1 bit is reserved for its sign. So the minimum value becomes -32,768. Similarly, maximum value will be inclusive of 32,767. So the short data type can also be used to save memory as byte data type, but it stands midway between the byte and the integer. A short data type can also store the sign, as you can say. In byte also we had it was one of those data types that can store sign, and a short is 2 times smaller than int. So you are getting what I think, that it is up to our usage or to our usability that what data type we want to use. And the main consideration in choosing of the data type is the range of values that it can hold. If your purpose will be served by a range comprising of -32,768 and going up to 32,767, then short data type will do best. So unnecessarily you shouldn't waste the memory space. Okay, then the default value is again 0. If you declare a variable, it will hold the value of 0. And initialization process is same as other data types, like short s is equal to value, short r, whatever variable holding a value, negative or positive, between valid range. Then there is integer. Everybody knows about integer. Now what is an integer? An integer is a data type, and as far as the C language is concerned, the earlier versions of the C language, the data type integer is stored 2 bytes, and in C++, the size was 4 bytes, and it is retained in the Java language as well. Like there are 32 bits, or 4 bytes is the size of the int data type by 2's complement integer. For 2's complement integer, if you want to find out exactly what it means, you have to search through the Morris Mano books of computer organization and system software. So what are the minimum value? There's a huge range of negative to positive values that can be held by an integer variable. Like since it is holding 32 bits of storage, then it means that it will range from 2 to the power of 31 from minus sign to 2 to the power of 31 minus 1. So the minimum value will be a very huge value, that is 214748368, and similarly the maximum value is as given in this slide. It is int is generally used as a default data type for integer values, because everybody knows and is familiar with the integer data type. So if a person doesn't want to experiment too much with the numerical data types, then he uses int data type. So the default value is 0 here, and you have to initialize a variable just like you do with any other data type. Now there are a few data types that are specifically made for some purpose, like the long data type. A long data type is double of an integer. Like a short is half of the integer data type, a long is double of the integer data type. It is 64 bits long. It can store values from minus 2 to the power of 63 till 2 to the power of 63 minus 1. And this is mainly used to store scientific values, integer values, and the calculations that involve very high precision, and long calculations holding too much memory space. Then we use the long data type. This type is used when a wider range that integer is needed. The default value is 0L. Capital L means that you have stored the variable in the long form, in the long data type. So whenever you assign a value to a variable, then you must assign it by suffixing, by providing the suffix of capital L after your number or the value of the number or the digit ends. Okay. Now float is another numerical data type, and as far as float is concerned, it is a 32-bit a 32-bit decimal values it can hold, and whenever we want to assign some value to this floating point number, we have to suffix a small f after the value. Like in the last line you can see float f1 is equal to 234.5 f. This f clearly makes it that this value is a float value. Now in the floating point arena, we have another data type that is very often used in longer calculations. It is known as a double data type. Like a double data type is a double precision 64-bit IEEE, a 754 floating point. This data type is generally used as the default data type for decimal values, generally the default choice. Okay. So Okay, so I was talking about the various primitive data types in Java. We discussed integer, short integer, and byte, and long, float, and double. Another primitive data type is the Boolean data type that is used to store true and false value, and it is useful when we are dealing with some decision making kind of a condition, like a value, a particular expression can be either evaluated to true or a false, or we can check a particular value to be true or a false. Then in that case, that variable has to be declared a Boolean type. Okay. Now, a very important data type as it is a char. A char data type holds a single character. Okay, like for example, as I told you that the data types are important because they let us the freedom to decide that what type of a value we want to assign to a particular variable. Like in case of, if we are suppose wanting to store the section of a class, this section can go A, B, C, or D. That can be very well stored in a char data type. So a char data type is a single 16-bit. Why 16-bit? It is because we don't need too many bits to store the ASCII or Unicode characters, because they are limited. So 16-bit will suffice. Now this is regarding the primitive data types. I again repeat that primitive data types are stored on the stack, and reference data types are stored on the heap. Heap and stack both are data structures. If you want to refer to those, then you can shuffle through the pages of your book of our data structures. Now, what exactly are reference data types? Reference variables are created using defined constructors of the classes. Now, the person who is new to Java will not be knowing what are constructors, but a person who has studied C++ or any other object-oriented language, they must be familiar with what a constructor is. I will go into quite a great detail in constructors in the object-oriented part of this language, but at present I just want to say that constructors are used to initialize the variables in a class. A class is an encapsulation of data variables and methods or properties, and to initialize the variables of a particular class, you use constructors. Okay, so just like methods that initialize the values of the variables of a class. So the reference variables are created using defined constructors of the classes. We define, as the developer or the programmer, we define what are the constructors according to our suitability or the need of the application. So these variables are declared to be of a specific type and cannot be changed. Like if suppose we are declaring a class called employee, then that class employee will be used to instantiate objects of employee. Like I instantiate emp1, emp2, emp3, 4. So these are the variables of that particular class called reference variables. These variables are the reference to these variables, or the address of these variables are stored. Okay, so these are known as the reference variables, and we cannot change this directly. And they whenever they occupy memory, when they finish their work, have to be garbage collected. Okay. So these are the reference data types, like class objects and various types of array variables. Array is another example of a reference data type. Whenever you store something to inside an array, then that becomes a reference. A variable of an array is a reference variable. Okay. So as the default value of the primitive data types for all 0, now the default value of the reference data types are null. Null, null means nothing. Okay. Do not confuse null with void, because void is a data type, but null is just a emptiness of a value. Okay, so void is different from null. Now a reference variable can be used to refer to any object of the declared type or any compatible type. This means that suppose I have made two objects of a single class, like employee. I have made a class, I defined the various properties, variable member variables, and constructors, destructors. We do not have destructors in Java, But suppose we have given the full body definition of a particular employee class, and then we are instantiating objects of the employee class like EMP1, EMP2. Then EMP1 can be assigned to EMP2. It will copy the values of EMP2 to EMP1. There are some restrictions and some possibilities regarding the copying of one particular object to another. We are not going to go into details at present, but I can tell you that we can copy variables or the reference variables of similar types to each other. Okay, like suppose in this example, animal is equal to new animal. First of all, you should look at that animal's A is capital, and the object animal, and a capital animal with A capital is the class, and animal is the object of animal class, capital A animal class. Okay, so new animal. If you are not familiar with C++, you just delve through C, then this might be daunting for you, because this is not a type of declaration or definition of a particular variable which is used in C language. Here animal is equal to new animal, giraffe. This means that there is a class called animal, and the object of that class, small a animal, is equal to new animal. Now this is known as the constructor call, which I told you that constructors of a classes are used to initialize the variables. So here what it is doing is initializing and sending some value giraffe to the class animal. Okay, don't get confused with it. I will do the things fine when time comes, no problem. Animal. So what is happening is, if you are defining a particular animal, if you are defining a particular object of a particular class, it can be assigned to another. Okay. Now, what are identifiers? Actually, identifier comprise of keywords, constants, and things that are provided by the language. Okay, and what we also add into that particular language, like our variable names and things like that. Identifiers, like identifiers comprise of keywords. Now, what are keywords? Keywords are those words that are specified by the programming language in order to be able to run. Like int is a keyword, float is a keyword, okay, for is a keyword, while is a keyword, and suppose public, private, if, class, throws, whatever vocabulary is provided by a language comprises of keywords. Okay. Now, there are some other identifiers like defined by a programmer. Suppose in Java we have a system, scanner, string, or out. These are also keywords, or sorry, these are identifiers. Okay. Why identifiers? Because these are the names of the classes. Okay. Now, if we want to create our own variables, as you might be knowing, variable is a general term that sometimes is used with identifiers. So, if you want to make a variable in Java, then first of all, you should know that the Java is a case-sensitive language. Small, suppose small NAME is totally different from capital NAME, or in fact, a single difference in character of two variable names will be different. So, because Java is case sensitive. Okay. So, what we have to do is, what we can use for giving the name to a variable, like Java IDs must begin with a letter. You should start with a letter. You cannot start with 1, 2, 3, 4 or things like this. This you can do in Unix, but not in Java. Java IDs must begin with, it is a mandate for them to begin with a letter and followed by any number of letters. It can contain any number of letters or digits, but the starting must be done by a character or a letter. Okay, we can use underscore characters or dollar characters, special characters. Okay. Now, identifiers are case sensitive, as I told you. Upper and lower case letters definitely mean different variables. Okay, and the naming convention, yes, it is a very good practice if you use naming convention according to the standard of the industry. Okay, if you make it a habit of making the variable names and the function names and the class names, object name with, in accordance with the convention that is used in the industry, you will never face problem when you go out and do your job. because that will not you already be knowing with that thing, you will be familiar with that. So many Java programmers use the following convention. Whenever you are making a class in an object oriented programming language, start with the other uppercase. Like if you are making employee class, then E should be capital, and then with each word, that starting character must be in the uppercase. Like suppose you are making string buffer is a class, buffered input stream is a class, then what you have to do is you start with capital S, then the next word is buffer, so the first character of the next word will be capital. It will become more clear if you see buffered input stream. Now buffered is whenever you are making a class, then this thing holds. Like buffered input stream, buffered has B capital, then input is another word, the next word, the first character is I, it is capital, then the stream and the first character is S, that is capital. So whatever you are going to do with the naming of the classes, you have to follow this. Okay, then it will be very less confusing by exchanging your code with the other developer or programmer what you have as your counterpart. Now you can also see that array index out of bounds exception is a class, and it is also written in this particular fashion. Never compromise with this. Okay, then methods and variables start with lowercase, like start with lowercase, but their subsequent words are in capital. Okay, characters. Like start with lowercase, then start each word with an uppercase letter. The difference between the declaration of the classes, the name of the classes, and the methods and variables is that the classes have each and every starting character of the word in capital, but the methods and variables have the first letter of the first word small, and then it is very much similar to, in fact exactly similar to the name of what we use the convention in the classes. Okay, now what are literals? Values that are hard coded into a program are called literals. Now what is hard coded into a program? Like what we can say is suppose there is a character variable, suppose there is a character data type, and what values can it have? It can have a character value, can have a single character. Okay, then single quote A, single quote B, or single quote dot, or single quote alpha, or single quote at the rate, or single quote anything, a bracket becomes the literal. Okay, and in case of a string, the whole string or the text that you are supplying can become the literal. Okay. Then fine. Then I am going to keep it up to this point today. I will start with the next series, the next lecture, with starting with the statements and the variables and this stuff. Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so I'm going to continue my discussion of variables. Now, as we all know, that variables are of two types. First are the primitive variables. They are 8 in number, and the other category belongs to the reference variables. So memory locations that are associated with identifiers are called variables, and values can change throughout the execution of a program. Whenever you are creating a variable itself means that it has to change, it can change. So the values of the variables of various data types can change. Suppose you have first declared a variable of type integer in case of age, or better still, if you can declare it like a short integer of age to be equal to 10, it can be reassigned value of 20 or whatever. So they can change in value. Now in Java, it must be specified as a certain type or class. Like the type of a variable specifies its property. What exactly a variable holds is the data it can store and the operations that can be performed on it. Like a variable expresses itself as containing the data. First of all, like if we, as in the case of age, we have taken short data type, it holds value like 10. And it can it also has operations that can be performed on it, like all numerical all expressions or calculations that can be performed on numerical data type can be performed on the short integer data type. So whenever we declare a data type, there are two things associated with it. First is the range of values that it can hold, as we have discussed earlier, and the other thing is the number of operations that can be performed on that particular data type variable. Okay. And there's one thing more, that Java is fairly strict about enforcing data type values. Like, you cannot create a variable without a data type. In many languages you can do so, like Python, PHP, but in Java you have to declare the data type for that variable, otherwise it will not be executed and will throw error. Okay, and one thing more, that if you are declaring a particular type of a variable, then in that case you cannot assign a literal value to it which doesn't belong to the domain which it can carry. Like, if you are declaring an integer variable of, and the name is age of that variable, you cannot assign hello, a string contained within double quotes, to that variable, because it is not possible to hold different or incompatible values between incompatible data types. Like, if you suppose declare a variable, as in this case, int I is equal to hello, then this cannot be done, because integer I is expecting a value that should be an integer, but you are giving it a value to be a string that is enclosed within double quotes. So this is totally wrong, and two incompatible data types cannot be assigned the same value. Okay, so another thing is there is widening and narrowing of the variables and the data types. Like, you can suppose if you are talking about numerical data types like float and double, long, short, int or byte, you can specify a value of a variable which is of a data type smaller in size as compared to that residing on the left side of the equal to sign. Like in this example, 3.5 is actually a double. Whenever you if you are not writing an F character at the side of your definition of the variable, it will be taken, if it is a floating point number, it will be by default taken to be double, not float. Okay, so then this double value cannot be specified or cannot be expressed in terms of integer, so this cannot be cast in integer. So this will throw an error. Okay, and will say that it is a possible loss of precision. And suppose why has this been done? Because on the right side of the equal to sign is a bigger data type as compared to the left side of the equals to. This cannot be done. Okay, this narrowing, it is known as narrowing, has to be explicitly cast. Okay, it is not automatically done. So you cannot assign a bigger data type variable to a smaller data type variable naturally. You have to take it on your part, and you have to explicitly cast it for that thing to work. Okay, but if we are keeping a bigger data type on the left side of the equal to sign and a smaller data type on the right side of the equal to sign, that this can be very easily done, and it is by default done, so you don't need to take any pain regarding casting it from one data type to another or enforcing your cast. Okay. Floating point literals in Java are by default double. They are not float, as it may be falsely expected, because double holds a bigger value. Okay, so when you are assigning it to some data type, then it is by default assigned to the bigger data type. So it is assigned to double. Okay, and how is data stored in memory in primitive data types and in reference data types? This entirely different way of storing the data types, the primitive and the reference data types. Why? Because whenever you declare a primitive data type, like or define a primitive data type like int var1 is equal to 100, then this will just make a variable var1, and on that memory location it will store the value in the stack. Okay, but if you want to store some primitive data type, then in that case you will store the variable in the stack, but the value that has to be stored, like a string is a reference data type, this will be stored on the on the heap, another data structure, and its variable will be stored on the stack. Now we will delve closer into this thing. Like you can see in this slide, I have declared a variable a that contains a value 3. Okay, this is your first line of your code. Now, when I told you that the primitive data types are stored on stack, then whenever this line is executed, what will it do? It will first in the stack, then it has to store at the lowest level. Okay, because it's the first instruction. So a is equal to 3 will be stored. Then int b is equal to a will get executed, and b will be stored, and it will also hold the value 3. Okay, I have not shown over here because this is superseded by this next line. Now I have done b is equal to 100, then b will be 100, no problem. This is simple as it deals with the primitive data types, and the whole storage is done on stack. There is no heap involved in that. But now see, I have declared an array C of integer data type. That means that it will comprise of all the elements that are integers. Okay. So this C array will hold 1, 2, 3, 4, and how will it hold? This C array, as I told you, the variable will be stored on the stack, but the reference, this is a reference. C is a reference variable. Why? Because it is a because it is holding an array. An array is a reference type. So C is a reference type, and the variable C will be stored on the stack, but it will point to this 1, 2, 3, 4 array, this array comprising of the element of the values 1, 2, 3, and 4. This array will be stored on the heap, and C will point to it. Okay. Now, when we declare another variable of array type, integer array type, and we call it D, and it will point to C, as in this expression, then what will do? The D and C will both point to the place in the heap where this 1, 2, 3, 4 array is stored. Okay. Now, let us see. Yes, now I am doing D1 is equal to 99. Like the array D, in its first, the values of the indices start from 0. So 1 means the second element, and this element is stored with a new value called 99. Okay. So what will happen, because C and D both are referring to the same array in the heap, then 99 will be stored in the array, and their pointers are still pointing to the array. Okay. Now let us do one thing more, that you should know that whenever there is a new operator involved, then new memory is allocated and assigned to the object to the left of the equal to sign. That means now when D is equal to new int 5, then a new new integer of 5 of capacity 5 is declared, and D is pointing to it. As you can see, now C and D are not pointing to the same array, because D is allocated a new array. Therefore D will point to this array, and all the values, as you know, inside the array are, the array itself is reference type, but the values inside it are integers. So these are primitive values, so they are always initialized with 0, no problem. Then int e is equal to 5, 6, 7, 8. Like another array is declared, and this time its value is 5, 6, 7, 8. Then integer f is again declared with the same kind of values 5, 6, 7, 8, but this is done in order to make a clear distinction that if the values are same in the array, that doesn't mean that the references are the same. Okay, so E and F are holding different references for 5, 6, 7, 8, two different arrays. Okay. Now if I am going to do F1 is equal to 98, that means the array that is pointed by F will change its second element to 98, as shown here. Now this is all about array, but you also know that string is also a type of an array. Okay, but strings are immutable. Immutable means they cannot be changed. These arrays, of the integer arrays we have discussed so far, can be changed. As you can see that we have changed the values to 99 and 98 in respective arrays. This cannot be done in case of string. Although it seems as if the arrays are mutable, they can be changed, they can be inserted with new characters, or they can be deleted or updated with new characters. But this is not the true story. Actually, the thing behind it is that the string class is not mutable, it's immutable. So the string is immutable class. So when we provide string G is equal to hello, then obviously it is a reference data type, so the G variable will definitely hold the reference to the hello on the heap. And then if we assign another string H to G, then H will definitely hold to also point to hello. And then if we assign a new variable like goodbye to H, then this will be checked off from over here, and then it will point to a new string. Okay, now this immutability of strings can be dealt with quite a lot of freedom by using the string buffer or the string builder class. Actually, at this point of time, you must just know like the strings are immutable. The strings are immutable, they cannot be changed, although it seems to the programmer that they are changing, but the things that are happening behind the curtain are totally different. Okay, whenever we want to provide some string value that has to change with time, then we must use the string buffer or the string builder class. Okay, fine, then